Me, my Indian Springfield, and the open road. Destination is Appomattox Courthouse in Virginia, where Lee surrendered to Grant. With directions from my navigation unit and a backup taped to the bike, I hit the road. The weather forecast was sunny and hot. Real sunny and real hot. Will this be an issue later in the trip? Lee surrendered at Appomattox. Will I need to surrender to the heat? With my mesh jacket, mesh pants, and bottled waters, I believe I am ready for this trip. I have been looking forward to visiting Appomattox. I have not been in many years. I am thinking at least 25 years ago. A lot has changed in my life in 25 years. A lot has changed in our country since Appomattox. Both of these topics are on my mind during today's ride. On the bike, I make it a point to take in the sights and sounds of the back roads. Old buildings and barns. I wonder about their history. How long have they been here? Why did they end up in this condition? What were they used for? I am thankful they are still here for me to see today. My ride to Appomattox should take just over an hour and a half with no stops, but I know there will be stops. I am usually not focused on the speed of the ride. My route will purposely take as many back roads as possible. Not the quickest way to Appomattox, but the most scenic. I am good with a slower pace. Although riding a motorcycle is very relaxing, at the same time, I can't help but think of the danger of the road. I think of riders in our area that were recently killed while riding their motorcycles. I want to make it back home at the end of each ride. Those riders never realized that their last ride was their last ride. I find myself constantly lifting up silent prayers for safety as I continue on my journey looking at what God has created. Just like in life, with every twist and turn, one never knows what to expect ahead. You hope life and the ride will be sunny weather and things will go your way. Take time to enjoy the moment. Soak in everything around you. On long straightaways, it can be easy to tune out. Be careful not to do this. A curve can sneak up on you if you're not paying attention. Sometimes I find myself verbalizing what I'm doing so that I am purposeful in noticing what's ahead and what I'm doing in response. Upshifting to fourth gear. Apply the rear brake. Check the mirror. It helps keep you awake and thinking. Keep taking in the beauty of what's around you. A good lesson for life. I enjoy passing through small towns. I stopped briefly in this town to grab some gasoline and get hydrated with some fluids. It's always important to stay hydrated, especially in very hot and humid Virginia weather. As often happens during a stop, I had a conversation with a few locals about the motorcycle and the ride ahead. The motorcycle opens up conversation with others. I always tend to enjoy the local banter and hearing people's stories about when they used to ride motorcycles or how they hope to in the future. I continue pressing on. I am getting closer to Appomattox, Virginia. As I pass the fields that bring me closer to my destination, my mind always races with what history has taken place in this area. Who has slept in tents around here? How many people may have died? What relics have landowners found through the years on their property? Who has walked in these woods that I am riding by? Think what you will about North or South, but this is Virginia history, the story of our Commonwealth, the story of our nation. I am in the home stretch. Lee and Grant traveled by horseback to reach Appomattox. I'm riding an Indian Springfield motorcycle, something they could not have imagined. As the 1.5-hour ride is nearing its end, it is much, much hotter than when I left the house. As I slow down to pull into the parking lot, I can tell just how hot it is. I lift the helmet to get some much needed air. Today's riding will bring a lesson. It is very hot out here today. So I'm not sure in this motorcycle, even mesh pants, how long I'm going to be walking today. So one of the things I've always found interesting about the McLean house where the surrender took place is at the first Battle of Manassas, the first fight of the Civil War. The house that was on the field was the McLean house. And that family moved to get away from what they thought was going to be the site of war. And they ended up here. This was their house, where the surrender ended up taking place. I think I'm going to drift back and get my fluids. It's too hot. So guys, it is so hot out here. I think it's now about 92 degrees with humidity. And I'm wearing motorcycle mesh pants and boots. And I didn't bring a change of clothes. So I'm not sure if I'm gonna be out here very long. I hate to say I rode all this way, but I'm afraid it's gonna be too hot, because I'm already feeling a bit exhausted out here. I'm burning up. So guys, I hate to admit this, but I don't think I can keep going. My bottom half is burning up. And my heart is racing a little bit. And I don't have any change of clothes. So I think I'm going to be walking back. Well, I came here mainly to see this house where the surrender took place. I'm going to go in and check that out.
That was from Charleston, and it's not Charleston because everybody thinks that it's Charleston there in South Carolina, because it is not.
Hello there.
Thank
Thank you. On the morning of April 9th, 1865, General Lee had a small contingent left, including his nephew Fitzhugh Lee with the Confederate cavalry nearby. I recently shared a video visiting the grave of this Fitzhugh Lee. Wilbur McLean originally offered an abandoned building for this meeting, but was told the structure was unsuitable. Only then did he offer this house. Lee arrived first at Appomattox and was dressed in his finest uniform. He had told members of his staff that he believed he was going to be arrested and taken as a prisoner of war and wanted to look his best. Grant arrived 30 minutes later, dressed in a soldier's uniform and covered with mud on his boots. Quite a contrast. The surrender terms were considered to be very gracious and in keeping with Lincoln's wishes, perhaps even more generous than he intended. The Confederates would be paroled after surrendering their weapons, and the soldiers would not be prosecuted if they did not take up arms again. Confederate officers could keep their horses and sidearms. Lee's army surrendered, but the war would go on a bit longer, as word spread and the other armies in the field surrendered. Abraham Lincoln was assassinated by John Wilkes Booth just 3 days later. Alright guys, I'm embarrassed to admit this, but between the temperature out here today and the humidity and my general physical shape, man, it was a tough combination. Like Lee, I had to surrender at Appomattox. The heat was too hot. I learned a lesson today about motorcycle attire. My gear was great for the ride, safe and comfortable. But what worked on the bike was simply too hot for walking around at Appomattox. As I make my way back home, using many of the same roads that brought me here, it always amazes me how roads I had just been on seem new. Like in life, going in a different direction offers a fresh perspective. They say reading the same passage in the Bible will mean different things to you at different times, even though the words are the same. The road can be the same way. It's the same road at a different time, and you notice things you didn't see when you had just come through this way shortly ago. It is like riding a new ride each time. One of the challenges of the road, and things we don't always talk about, I drink a lot of fluids at Appomattox, and now I had to pee. I mean pee. These rural roads don't offer a lot of options for a pit stop, so seeing this McDonald's sign was like manna from heaven. I pulled into this McDonald's making a dash for the door, and had to spend time cooling down. After a 30-minute stop at the McDonald's to cool down and eat, I hit the road again, eager to keep going. This was one of my favorite stretches through this area. The sights, the sounds, and the smells of the area are part of the fun of the ride. I kept cruising down the road, but needed to take another break. This stop brought more conversation with others that ride or know someone that does. They wave and wish me safe riding ahead on my way home. As I travel on, I'm always mindful of our freedom to travel freely throughout this beautiful country. There is much to see if you only stop and take the time to do it. Life is short. Seize the moment. Whether you ride, fly, or any other hobby you choose to do, go for it while you can. As the scenes rush by as I get closer to home, I start to detect dark skies in the distance and the smell of rain in this area. There was no rain in the forecast when I checked that morning. As in life, circumstances can change unexpectedly, and you must decide whether to stop your forward progress or keep going. I decide to press on. Experiencing a ride in the rain is unlike anything in an automobile. You smell the rain. You are getting wet from the rainfall. You want to get home, but you are questioning if it's safe. Out here in the rural country back roads, there really is nowhere to stop. So you keep going. You slow down in some of the curves. You watch your braking. You hope your equipment is waterproof. And yes, the rainfall is a reminder. I need to pee again. Even this part of the ride is fun. Though I know I need to improve my future gear and pack some rain clothes just in case. As I start to think all is well, my lightning tracker app warns me of lightning strikes in the area, shown by the red dots. As I make the final turns and pull in at home, I thank God for another safe return. Until the next time, I will see you on the road.